the name of God the Most High, welcome back to the Rummi Talks podcast with your host, Rummana Shaheen. Today, I'm very excited for this part. This is episode 1, part 3 of the Get to Know Me episodes that have been released in the last few weeks. And this is the last part, and I'm very excited to be here with all of you. Last week's episode was very heavy upon the heart, and I am forever grateful that you gave me this platform to be able to express myself. So thank you very much to everyone that sent in messages of love, support, prayers. I really, really appreciate them. And yeah, without any further ado, let's begin, inshallah, episode 1, part 3. So in this episode, I'm going to discuss kind of what happened post boarding school, leaving from being in education for such a large period of time, and then coming out as people would say, the real world, and then having to deal with, all of the strings that are attached with the real world. I say real world because the time that I was in boarding school, it was as though we were living in a shield of protection, right? What I mean by this is that we didn't actually have access outside. We didn't have social media, we didn't have our mobile phones, and we didn't really have access to a lot of what was going on in the world because we were kind of closed in. We were living in a very protected area, and we would meet with our sisters that we would be living with on a daily basis, and our teachers, that we would be so engrossed in our studies that we wouldn't have enough time to be to spend on social media, things like YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, everything that we have today. We didn't really have access to these things when we were in boarding, so we were kind of like sheltered and protected in a way. So after boarding school, coming out of that protected environment to then the world where you've got to kind of make it on your own, it was a really big transition. It's like, when children go from primary school to secondary school, and they have that transition from, being in such a nice, protected place in primary school where the teachers are always guiding you, taking you for lunch, taking you for breaks, taking you from class to assemblies. They're guiding you down. Then going to secondary school where you've got to do everything yourself, make your own way to your classes, get to school on time, get into your classroom on time, and it's all your responsibility. And in a way, this is what was felt when I came out of boarding school, because in boarding school, we always had our teachers there. If we were confused about something, we'd go straight to our teacher. If we wanted some advice on something, we'd go to our teachers, But now coming into the real world where you are now going to begin teaching public people, and you don't always have that guidance of having your teachers there at every given moment. It was a difficult transition, but it was a very needed transition. I learned that it's not as easy as what it was when we were in boarding school and we were under the guidance of our teachers. So as I mentioned in the previous episodes, I was studying between 6 to 7 years, and when I actually returned back home after my Ustad had passed away. So when Mufti Ashfaq, may Allah grant him a high place in Jannat al-Firdaus, when Mufti Ashfaq passed away, it was then when I returned home, and I was already at home, and because we were in our holidays at that time, and after getting the news of Mufti Sahab passing, I found it very hard to kind of get myself back to my normal self again. So I did take a bit of a gap, a couple of months, I believe. I was kind of just like at home, not doing anything, not studying, not teaching, nothing at all. And I remember at that time before Mufti Sahab passed away, we were living in a school in Nottingham, and something had happened with the facilities there, and the school had to temporarily close. And then because obviously Mufti Sahab had passed away as well, it was a lot easier for me to make the decision of not going back. So then I decided at that point, it was 2015, I decided that I wouldn't return back to studying. The rest of the girls that were in the school, they were then transferred over to another school, which was local. It wasn't that far from where we were in Nottingham, and they continued their studies there. But as for me personally, I didn't go back. I completely just stopped. So in this time when I came home, when I was at home, sorry, it gave me a time to reflect over like what exactly I want to do. And I do remember that, um, a few opportunities came my way, like for example the local masjid looking for a teacher to teach at their place, and then there was another place in Halifax that also reached out. They were looking for an Arabic teacher. So anyway, I did start like small classes. I did take small steps in starting. It was quite nerve-wracking simply because when you don't have that kind of protection in a way of your teacher. What I mean by that is, when you feel like you're doing something wrong, or when you feel like something's happened and you want to get advice, you'd always kind of go back to your teachers, and they'd kind of be like a protection over you, and then they'd advise you in best. And then also they could also speak directly to like the males that were in charge of these places. One thing that I have realized being in this field as a woman is that it is a very male dominated place. Like the imams, the sheikhs, they take the upper hand, which is alhamdulillah absolutely fine. We accept that Allah has created different roles for within different genders. So women having their own roles, men having their own roles, which is absolutely fine. But the I think one of the biggest problems that I did face being a female and being an Islamic teacher was that women were kind of just like pushed to the side. I was teaching in a couple of institutions, in the beginning of my journey of teaching. So studying, alhamdulillah, that was kind of, I got through it and I was just really focused. And now going on to like my teaching side of things, I was teaching in a few institutions at one time. I remember there was 3 places that I was teaching in one day. So like my day would typically begin at 8 a.m. in the morning. I would make my way to the first place I would be teaching. The classes would start at 9 a.m. I would teach there till 12 p.m. Then from 12 p.m. I would either get the bus or get the train. And if I got a lift, then alhamdulillah, because I wasn't driving at that time. I actually passed my driving in 2016. So from 2015 to 2016, there was like a few months in between where from one institution, I would then get the train or the bus to the next institute. And then it would take me about an hour's commute. Then I would teach in the next place from 1 p.m. till like 4 p.m. Then again, I would go from 4 p.m. to the next institution. And then I would teach there from 6 p.m. all the way till 10 p.m. in the evening. So my days on the weekends, especially Saturday and Sunday, would be from 8 a.m. in the morning till 10 p.m. at night. And my family members wouldn't see me throughout that time because I would be going from one class to the next class to the next class, And these classes were not in one city. I was going from Bradford to Halifax, then Halifax to Oldham, because I was teaching in Oldham at that time. So it was kind of like back to back, back to back. And I remember I came across someone and they said to me, oh, like, they were asking me like, what do you do and stuff? And I told them, I said, look, I teach. And they said to me, and, I was kind of getting a little bit burnt out. And they said to me, you're in your prime age. Because at that time I was like, 21, 22 years old. So they said to me, you're in your prime age, like you're young, you've got the ability, you've got the strength, you've got the courage and the aspirations. So you should do as much as you can in your youth, and that stuck with me, right? And I did then make it the intention that I would do as much as I can whilst I do have the strength to do it. Because I know that as I grow older and then obviously eventually having more responsibilities, I would not be able to do what I do, being young and not having that many responsibilities upon me. So then at that time, I just made it kind of like the intention, and I made the niyyah that I would do as much as I can for the sake of the deen. So at the age of 21, approximately, I then started to teach in these different places. And in each institution, I was teaching different things. So like, for example, the place in Halifax, I was teaching Arabic. So like Sarf and Nahu, which are the Arabic grammar subjects that we have. And then in Bradford, I was teaching like Sira, Aqidah, Quran, Tajweed. I was teaching like 4 topics because I was teaching there for 4 hours. Then in Oldham, I was teaching again for 4 hours. So I was teaching 1 topic per hour, So it got really hectic. I'm not going to lie. Like the whole day, I just wouldn't eat, because in the mornings I'm not really a breakfast person. So in the mornings before I would leave, I would not eat, and then the entire day all the way till the evening I still wouldn't eat. And then I'd kind of just come home and then binge out or whatever, if whatever's mum made, or if there's nothing to eat, then I'd just get takeout on the way home, and that sort of stuff. So I mean, in terms of what I was putting in my body, as well as the amount of effort that I was putting into like the work, it was not good. I would get like these burnouts where I would just be crashed in my bed for like a week, and then I'd get back to it again. And I'd always have the mindset of, I need to do more, I need to do more, I need to do more. I don't know why. I think one of the main factors was that there wasn't a lot of women on the scene. There wasn't a lot of ustadas, as they say, female teachers that were on the scene in the deen, teaching the traditional sciences of the religion. So then when I would see that, and there would be sisters coming to me and talking to me about their problems, I would feel really upset, especially those who were not from the cities that I would be teaching in. So if they were from like London or Scotland or Manchester or anywhere, where they wouldn't have access to a female teacher, I would feel really, really upset and sad for them that they didn't have easy access to someone who could potentially answer the questions for them. So with that mindset, I was like, no, it was like a bit of a drive. I've got to do more. I've got to do more. I've got to do more. So this is why I was doing that. And, eventually I did stop because it did get really difficult. And, but alhamdulillah, it was a beginning, and it did kind of pave the path for me, in a sense. So for about a year, I would say about half a year, I was doing that. And halfway through the year, I, in where I live in Bradford, I started to kind of like think to myself that I do eventually want to have a safe space for sisters. I want to have a space where sisters can come anytime to speak to me, to sit in classes, to sit in gatherings. So I kind of spoke to my family and said, look, I want to like create a class or some type of space for sisters to be able to come and just relax. And that's where the Rahman Academy actually came from. Now, prior to me making this decision, my elder two sisters, alhamdulillah, because I mentioned to you guys in the previous episodes, they also did go to boarding school. So when they came back, they were kind of like teaching, some children in the home. Now, there was actually a girl that lived in our street, and her mum actually came to our house and knocked on our door. And she said to my mum that, oh, can your girls have just done Islamic studies, right? They've just come back from studying the Alima program. Can they teach my daughter? My mum said, no, my daughters are really young, because my sisters at that time were like 16 years old, because they went when they were 11 and they came back when they were like 16, 17. So they were pretty young. My mum said, no, my daughters are quite young at the moment, so just put your daughter into like a local mosque. And the lady, she lives in our street, and they still live in our street, mashallah. She said to my mom that, you know what it is, like my daughter has been to the mosque, the local mosque, but she's not settling in well there, and she's getting bullied, and she's not finding her place there. So is it okay if I will just send her for half an hour a day, and your daughter will sit with her and go through the Quran with her, go through the Qaida with her. So my mom agreed, and alhamdulillah, that's where it all started from. So the classes that started in our home actually started from that one girl. And mashallah, she's a really good friend of ours now. She's grown, she's a lot older. This is going back a good 15 years, 15, 16, 17 years, like a long time, So now, mashallah, she's grown, and she's a good friend of ours. And they still live in the same street, alhamdulillah. And that's where it started from. And then my sisters did that. So when I then made this intention that I want to create a safe space for sisters to come and study the deen and just be like really themselves, like not feel judged, not feel like they're being overpowered or overwhelmed with the men, with the imams and the sheikhs and this type of stuff. And, they come and they study with someone who they can directly speak to, being woman to woman. Because even me, like when I was studying, I never studied with a female teacher. I actually only started to venture out to the female ustads and the hubabas after, this was years after studying. So that was the intention, and, I began from there, alhamdulillah. And slowly but surely, as it was like word of mouth kind of thing. My mum would tell the ladies that she would know, and then they would tell other people. And then slowly, word of mouth, students started to come in, you know. And at home, I think I had like a class of like maybe 7 students in total. It was a pretty small class, but you know, I always kept the advice of my teacher in my mind, where he said to me that whether you have 1 student or 2 or 500, it does not matter. You teach them. You do what you can, because that student has come to your door to take the deen from you. So never turn them away. So I never thought of numbers. I never thought of, oh, the class is too small for my time. Nothing like that. I just kept the advice of my teacher in my mind, and I taught them. So the class was pretty small. It was like maybe 7, 8, 9 students like this. But alhamdulillah, it was a very good class. It was like the first ever class that I had in my own space, you know. And then what happened is that as I started to teach, and as I was teaching so now I was teaching in 4 places in one day. I was teaching in Bradford in another institute, like it was a institution in central Bradford. Then I was teaching in my own home with the small class that I started. I was teaching in Halifax, and I was teaching in Oldham. So you can imagine what my day looked like. But alhamdulillah, I was just so motivated. I did this for a very long time. I believe for about 2 to 3 years I did this, you know, until I decided to stop. Now, the reason why I did actually stop and take a step back from all other institutions was because there was an incident that took place. I'm not going to actually talk about it because I don't believe that it needs to be talked about. But just to kind of, lay the foundations of what had happened, was that there was an incident that took place in one of the institutions where, you know, I always had the mindset that people of the deen are the most purest people. People of the deen can't scam people. People of the deen will never manipulate people. I always have had this, because I grew up studying with my teachers. I saw the way my teachers were with everything, the way they handled things, the way they handled problems and advices and any type of help they would give. I witnessed all of this firsthand. So I would always think to myself that people of the deen can't manipulate people and hurt people and do things to people that would cause them a lot of sadness. And this is where I was wrong, because I realized after this incident took place that even people of the deen, they are also humans, and they fall into sin. They fall short of the commands that Allah has given to us. So anyway, there was an incident that took place whilst I was teaching. It was like 2017 now, all right? So when this incident took place, I remember it was the same year that I traveled to Yemen. So I traveled to Yemen to a place called Tarim. And when the incident took place, it actually took place before I traveled to Yemen. Then when I went to Yemen, I didn't actually leave anywhere. So I just kind of took time out from the institutions to say, like, I'm going away for a little while and, you know, I'll be back soon. I didn't actually know the period of time that I would be gone. So I went to Tarim, and when I was in Tarim, I remember I met with Hubaba Noor. May Allah protect and preserve her. She's the wife of Habib Umar, Hafidhahullah. So Habib Umar's wife, in the evenings, we would like chill with her. We would sit, and it was during Ramadan, so we would like open our fast with her. She would sometimes invite us over to her home to sit with her and open our fasts. So from time to time, I would be there. And I remember when I went to Tarim, I went with a lot of anxiousness because of what had happened just before I had left. And I wanted advice. I wanted to see because obviously when you speak to your teachers, they would always give you a better insight into things. So I remember speaking to Hubaba Noor, and I told her everything that had happened. I said, look, this is what is going on. What advice would you give to me? And her words literally were, get out of this place as soon as you can, because there's a lot more worse that is about to come upon them. And in 2017, I didn't really know. I just kind of thought, okay, what could be worse, than what has already happened? But she literally said that much to me. You know, Hobaba Noor, for those of you that have met her, know that her words are very concise, you know. She speaks very little, but they have a lot of meaning in them. So that was literally all she said to me was, get out of this place as soon as you can, because there's a lot more that is about to befall them that is worse than what has already happened. So I just kept that in my heart. And then when I returned back to the UK, it was kind of back to work type of thing. I then kind of said to them in that certain institute that I'm no longer going to be teaching here. And that caused a really big shock. Like, how can you leave us? And it was really, really toxic. It was really bitter. They were not happy that I was leaving. They did a lot. They spread rumors. They did a lot, to kind of bring me down. But alhamdulillah, I got through it. It was hard at that time when I came back from Tarim. It was like I felt really, really isolated, just because I decided to make the decision to leave. However, alhamdulillah for everything. So eventually I then stopped teaching in all of the institutions, and I actually took a gap. So I think at that time I was only now teaching in the Halifax place, and then obviously my own at home, the small class that I had. And then I kind of took a gap, and from what I recall and what I remember, because it was a long time ago, guys, is that I had decided at that point that, I was so hurt by how the people of Deen, like, they are treating, because they were men as well, so it made it a lot harder for me as a woman, because they had access to a lot of the higher up men, if that makes sense. I did struggle because they then decided to kind of blacklist me, and make sure that I would not be able to teach anywhere else, which I found really crazy, because you teach for the sake of Allah. You don't teach for the institute. You don't teach for, like, in the sense of, you're not doing it for the dunya, we're doing it for the akhirah. So anyway, long story short, what happened is they tried to kind of like blacklist me in all of the places of gathering that I had, like kind of my circles of people that I would be that I was affiliated with. But alhamdulillah, I just let them do their thing. I never said anything. I never even spoke back to them defaming me and decharacterizing me and all of this. I never ever said anything, alhamdulillah. I just kind of kept my cool and just let Allah do what He does best. And I did take a bit of a break during that time. And I remember I was teaching in Halifax, and I was sat in the prayer hall in the masjid in Halifax that I was teaching in. And this sister, one of the students, she came to me and she sat next to me. She goes, "Oh, Ustad, I just want to talk to you." I said, "Yeah, Bismillah, what's going on?" So she was just like talking to me about her personal life. And then I was giving her advice. I was saying to her, "Look, you should maybe try this or do this, or, just general advice." And she said to me, she goes, "Ustad, you're so like amazing, you should like venture to social media." At this point I didn't have social media, guys, which I know is crazy, because now I've got a full-blown YouTube channel, Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok. I'm everywhere, And I said to her, no, I'm not really a social media person. I find it awkward having my face and just talking to myself on camera. I don't want to do this. And she said, no, you'd be so good. And then she mentioned a few other sisters that were on the scene at that time, and they were making like YouTube videos. She goes, "Look at this Ustada, she's making YouTube videos. She's so good. You should do something like this. It'd be so good. And there'd be so many sisters that would benefit. And if we within this like four walls are benefiting so much, if you was to venture out into the world, so many more would be able to benefit." And then I just said to her, "Okay, khair, inshallah, I'll do istikhara and I'll see how I feel. But right now, I'm not really an internet person, so I'll just stay away from that for now." And that kind of stuck with me. So when I came home, I kept on thinking about it for a couple of days. Weeks went by. I was still thinking about it, but I just never had the courage to start it. And then when I took this gap out, there was a teacher from Liverpool. I am going to actually mention her name because she deserves to be mentioned, subhanallah. Ustada Najiba. So she's from Liverpool, born and bred. She's a resident Ustada in Liverpool. She kind of reached out to me and said, "Look, I've come across you, and I would love for you to come to Liverpool and help me set up a place here and teach in an institute in Liverpool." And at that time I had just kind of taken the step back from teaching in places. So the only place that I was now doing was the one at home. with a very small number of students. But I kind of had taken the step back. So when I came back from Tareem, that's when this Ustadha Najeeba had reached out. So I said to Ustadha Najeeba, I said, okay, that's fine. Just let me know, inshallah, what your time frame is, what your timetable is like, what you want me to teach, and all of that sort of stuff. And she was an amazing woman, subhanAllah. She really, really helped me, especially through that phase where I was kind of being like talked about in a very bad light, subhanAllah. But alhamdulillah, she was like, you know what, let them do what they want to do. You just be you, you're fine. Now I'm only teaching in Bradford, in my own home, right? And the students that I'm teaching there, the very small class that I have, they then say the exact same thing that the student in Halifax said to me, about social media. They said, oh, social media is proper kicking at the moment. You should think about making an Instagram account, make a TikTok. Not a TikTok, sorry. TikTok came later. Make an Instagram account, make a Snapchat. Snapchat was the big thing at that time. And I was like, oh, another student a couple of weeks ago said the same thing to me. I wonder why this is like what's going on. So then I spoke to my youngest sister. Now she was kind of like the younger generation. So she had Snapchat. So I said to her, I go like, what is Snapchat? She goes, oh, well, it's just like an app. You make videos or you can post pictures. And after 24 hours, it disappears. I said, all right, okay. So can you show me how does it work? So my little sister actually showed me and like kind of walked me through everything. And I ended up making a Snapchat. So if you're not following me on Snapchat, make sure to follow me. I'll put my Snap code here. So I made a Snapchat, and this is going back 2017, right? Now, I was thinking to myself, what should I do? And then I thought, you know what, let me do Q&As, because I feel like a lot of sisters, they struggle in asking questions because they don't have access to people that they can ask questions to. So back in 2017, I then started to do Q&As on Snapchat. So what I would do is I made a video of myself literally holding my phone and like, I was like this, right? And I still remember I recorded that video at least a good 15 to 20 times because I just was like, this is so awkward. It feels so awkward just staring at myself. And I just didn't know how to kind of like look at it and think, do people really want to just watch me talk like that? That's crazy. But anyway, I made one video and I just said in it, Assalamu alaikum guys. I'm going to be answering questions. If you've got any Islamic related questions, send them in. And at that time I had like maybe 20 people on my Snap, literally 20 people or something. My family, my friends, like literally a really small handful, and my cousins, like relatives and stuff. So I made the video and I just put it on there. And there was a sister from Bradford who was very well known. She used to do cooking. Her name is Silas Kitchen. I'm actually going to give her a shout out, mashallah. Silas Kitchen. And she somehow came across my video, or someone sent it to her, because she had put something on her story about, oh, I need some advice in the deen. I don't know what is right, what is wrong. And then someone that was already on my friends list sent my Snap to her and said, oh, why don't you ask this question to Rummana? Because she's answering questions right now. So then Sister Sila, she's a really good friend of mine now, alhamdulillah. She reached out to me and she asked me, I didn't know who she was because when you make your Snapchat public, you can see their name, but you don't, there's so many, you don't really know who's who. So she asked me a question and I responded to her. I gave her the answer, gave her the evidences. And she was like, wow, this is amazing. She goes, this is amazing, sister, what you're doing. And what she did is she gave me a shout out on her story. And after that, it was complete history. Hundreds and hundreds of sisters started adding me, started asking questions on a daily. I started doing daily Q&As, daily videos, reminders, daily just like inspirational talks. I just started recording more and more and more. And then I was doing that the behind the scenes of my family. I used to record everything in my life, literally. I know I don't do that now, but I used to do that, And it just grew and grew and grew and grew and grew. And subhanAllah, now we have a good like 90,000, nearly close to 100,000 followers on Snapchat. It's like my biggest platform that I do have, with views like ranging between on the times when I'm consistent between 35 to 40,000 views on Snap stories, and it just grew really big, subhanAllah. And it was all because of, Baji Sila. She gave me that shout out and she kind of got it moving for me, alhamdulillah. So may Allah bless her and reward her for every single person that's benefited through my Snapchat. So then when I started this Snapchat now, what then happened after this was when the class of the one that I was doing at home finished, the girls that were in the class that were going on to now year 2, they said to me, "Oh, Ustada, why don't you make a poster and put it online? Like, why don't you put it on your Snapchat? And more students can come to your class." So I thought, yeah, maybe that's a good idea. So what I did is I created a poster, and with all the information on it, with the fees, with the topics that I would be teaching them and all that. It was very cowboyish. Like, I wasn't a professional designer, none of that, and I didn't have that then. I was doing it all by myself. So I kind of put all of that together on a poster, and I sent it out to the current 8-9 students that I had. And then I also sent it out onto like my Snapchat, onto my Instagram. My Instagram also has the same ID, Rummana23. So I kind of sent it out onto these platforms, onto my WhatsApp broadcast list or whatever I had. And subhanallah, in that year, after I utilized social media, so like it was like August time, the classes would start in September. In that new cohort of students, we had from 9, we then jumped all the way to 50 students that started the first year. So the 9 students moved on to year 2, then the year 1 started with a huge cohort of students. And I was shocked. I was like, 50 students have signed up to my class. Wow. That's a lot of students. And I remember, our ustads, before we left, we would sit for nasiha. And one time when we were sat, they said, when you are teaching one student, you are then accountable for that time of that student that you are taking, because time is something which is an honor from God. It is a favor from Allah. Not everyone has time, so the time that you take from these students, you will be accounted for it. So I was a little bit nervous. I was getting butterflies. I was getting anxious, thinking 50 students, 4 hours of every single student. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of time that I'm taking from these students. I need to make sure that I do justice to teaching them. So then what I decided was I was going to create a syllabus. And what I did is I kind of merged together what I had studied in the traditional sense and what I had done in the modern time, because my elder sisters are teachers, so they teach in schools. So their teaching techniques, they would, always like talk about it and, what they would do in classes, and I'd see them planning their lessons. So I would kind of like just take from them in a way, So I kind of merged the two worlds together, and I created a syllabus myself, trial and tested it over the years, what worked, what didn't work. Because the thing is, in the traditional way that I studied, it was very hard to now teach that to modern day students. And I realized that really, really quickly, that students, they were not engaging. They didn't like that style of teaching. So then I changed it up. And I started to teach in a more modernized manner, with presentations and resources and worksheets and activities and things like this, right? And I slowly started to do this. Then the years went on, and at this time I'm only teaching in Bradford, and now I'm only teaching in Liverpool. So Bradford and Liverpool, I'm commuting between the two. So I'd go to Liverpool in the mornings, do the mornings in Liverpool, and in the evenings do the evenings in Bradford. So I kind of like, did take it down a notch with regards to how many places I was teaching at. So I just did this for a couple of years, and mashallah, it worked. Every year we had more and more students joining, and it's now like current day when we start our registrations for our classes, we have around over 100 students that join every single year. And sometimes, don't get me wrong, throughout this time as well, sometimes people would come up with their little sniggering comments and stuff and say like, you're doing it all, like I've done it all by myself. I've never had, like, my teachers, may Allah grant him a high place in Jannat al-Firdaus, he was no longer here, so I didn't have anyone to go to help me, get people in. Like how you have an institution and you have the head of the institute, right? And usually it's a sheikh or it's someone, an imam or someone who is very learned. I didn't have that, so I had to kind of just do it by myself. And I created a safe, non-judgmental space for sisters. And I thought to myself, it's okay, I don't need to have a sheikh or an imam or someone that is of authority to be with me for me to be able to do this. I can do it. Inshallah, my intentions are sincere. Allah will help me. And khalas, that's it. That's all I need to remember, is to remain humble, not be arrogant, stick to the words of the advice that my teachers have always given me, and just create your own path and just go in it. You don't need to look left, not right. You don't need to do anything. Just stay in your own lane and just be the best that you can be. So I did that. And I never looked back. And alhamdulillah, I had the support of Usada Najiba, for example, Usada Badariya in Birmingham. These ustadas were the ones who kind of stuck by me, There was also an ustada from Oldham who, was really there for me, mashallah. And she would always be there, available for me to reach out to her for advice. She was amazing, Her name is Usada Anika, mashallah. She was from Oldham. There was now a small group of women that I had now created who were like my people, And then eventually with my students, that became my tribe. That became my village, And I just kept on going and going and going. And then, alhamdulillah, now the madrasa expanded so greatly that we currently have around, 500 students that attend the madrasa from Monday to Sunday. This is throughout the week, Alhamdulillah. So, and we've just continued. We have teachers in place. We have different classes, different workshops. There's all sorts of stuff going on. And alhamdulillah, Allah had made it possible for us. Now kind of fast forward to 2019. My sister was going to get married. So we all traveled to Pakistan in December of 2019 for the preps of the wedding, getting everything done and stuff. And this was the first time that I went to Pakistan. And subhanallah, when I went to Pakistan in 2019, when I saw the state that some little children, innocent children, were in, it completely took me by shock. I remember one time we were going to a mosque, a very famous mosque in Pakistan, and I had a water bottle, with me. And, after when we went to the mosque, we were scurrying because, there's quite a lot of people that ask for money, and there's a lot of beggars, and they always run, as soon as they know that you're from out or something, they'll always come up to you and ask you for money. So my mum was like, quickly, come on, get inside. So we were scurrying through the courtyard of the masjid to get inside. And I had a bottle of water on me. And I remember this little boy was sat on the corner, on the outside, on the courtyard of the mosque. And he had one shoe on and he didn't have another shoe. And he was in really ragged clothing. And I looked at the child and I said to my mum, Ami, he doesn't have any shoes on. She goes, yeah, it's fine. You just get in the mosque. I was like, no, but he's so small and his feet are going to get damaged and he looks ill. I'm going to take my shoes off and give it to him. My mum was like, are you crazy? You crazy woman? What are you doing? Get in the mosque. I was like, no, not me. I felt so sad. You hear about people living in poor conditions in poor countries. But when you see it firsthand, it's a different feeling. And I said to my mum, this was 2019, right? December. I said, no, not me. I can't. My heart doesn't feel like I can leave the child here. So then we went. So my mum was like, okay, you crazy woman. I think my mum, because she's from there and she was used to this, she was like, it's normal, just get inside. But I couldn't do that. So with my mum, I went to the little boy and my mum asked him in Urdu, what's wrong with you? Where's your mum? What are you doing? And he started crying. He literally just started crying. He didn't even say anything. He didn't even ask for money. He just started crying. And then I had my bag on me. So I opened my bag and I had 1,000 rupees and I took 1,000 rupees out and I handed it to the boy. I said, here, take this 1,000 rupees and outside these stalls, go buy yourself some chappal, some sandals, some shoes or something. And the boy was so happy. He had the biggest smile on his face, and I thought, 1,000 rupees? 1,000 rupees for us was a couple of quid. I think maximum maybe £10 at that time. Now it's gone obviously a lot less, but it was just a couple of quid for us. And he was so ecstatic, he was over the moon. And I remember going into the mosque saying to my mum, I can't believe that. She goes, yeah, Putra, it's okay, just do dua that Allah makes it easy for them. And, khalas, that was it, put to bed. Then after we finished in the masjid, we then went out to eat. We went to a restaurant to eat and there was all glass on the wall and we were sat by the table by the window. And I remember looking outside and we had ordered our food. We had a full table of food because there were so many of us, all of my cousins, my family, we were all there. We had a massive table of food and we were all eating to our heart's content. And I remember looking out the window and I saw a mother and her child on the edge of the road, and it was raining, and the child, as water was getting drained down the side of the road, he was getting the water in his hand and he was drinking it. And the mother that was sat next to him, she was cupping her hands, putting water from the drain water and putting it into the child's mouth. And when I saw that, I just burst out crying. My mom said, what is wrong with you? I said, look at us and how we are eating. And look at that mother and that child. And she had a newborn in her hand. I said, look at them. They're drinking the water off the road. This doesn't seem right. This is wrong. That's not right. My heart doesn't sit well with this. It's wrong. My mom said, okay, so what do you want to do? I said, I want to go give them my food. So I literally took my water bottle. I took my food that I had that was, I was halfway through it. I took it all and I went and sat on the edge of the road with the mum and the kid and the little baby. And the mother just stared at me. She was like, Madam, she was calling me Madam. She's like, Madam Tico, nee, because I sat down on the floor. She was like, no, your clothes are going to get dirty. I said to her, no, it's okay, just sit. And she sat with me and I said, here. And the little kid was so happy. He started eating the chicken and there was like pizza there was like burgers and whatever, and they started eating it. And then the baby, she was giving him like little bits of chicken. She was eating it herself. At first she didn't actually eat herself, she was giving it to her kids. And then I said to her, you eat, it's okay, if there's not enough I'm gonna go get more, don't worry, you eat, keep on eating. I got them water, I gave the water bottles to them, and I just sat with them. And my family thought I was crazy. But honestly, that day, it changed something in my mind, completely changed. I thought, no, I can't live such a luxurious life that I live, such a life filled with privilege and food and just the main necessities that a person needs. And I can't just have that and not help these people. It's not possible. So I remember in 2019, when we actually came back to the UK in January of 2020. And that's when it hit me. It was COVID time at that time. And I was like, no, Mom, like we're suffering here. Imagine what people there are suffering, because I've seen it firsthand. So then I said to my mom, I said, what can we do? I said, I want to do something, and give back. They don't even have water. Then at that time, I had made the decision that I was going to build water pumps. And I remember putting it out on my social media and saying, right, guys, this is how much. I think it was like £150, £200, something like that for a water pump. I said that, like, I'm going to be doing water pumps. If anybody wants to do it, you can do it. And you can put whatever name you want on the plaque. I spoke to my family that were in Pakistan at that time, because obviously it's COVID, I couldn't travel. And I said, is it possible? Can you guys do this? They said, yeah, okay. So I made like a goal of like maybe 10 water pumps. Subhanallah. In that, like I'd say 5-6 months, we had installed and built over 300 water pumps. 300 water pumps. When I put it on my social media, people from all over the world started to like come forward and say, no, we want to donate one. We want to donate one in our family's name. We want to do one here. We want to do one there. And subhanallah, it kicked off and we built over 300 water pumps. And it wasn't the case of, you paid for a water pump and then you'd get a response 4 or 5 years later. We were doing it every single day. And within 2 to 3, maybe 1 month, I was sending the information back to them saying, this is where it is. These are the photos. These are the videos of it being dug up, being built, the plaque, and then of the children of the villages. And we were all over the whole of Pakistan, Multan, Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad, Pindi, wherever, all over the whole of Pakistan, we were building these water pumps. Subhanallah, it was so absolutely amazing. And it was from that time onwards where I had decided, you know what, I want to give back. I want to help as much as I can. And then it was that time when I actually had set up my very first business. And when I set that business up, I made the intention that all the profits I make for this is like an extra thing I'm doing. All the profit I make from this business, I would donate that all to any of the charity work that I would do in Pakistan. So 2021, it was still COVID, so we didn't get to travel. So what we did is we sent, again, money across to, trusted people in Pakistan. And we would ask them to make like these food packs and give out food packs. And so firstly, I would always ask my family members and the people that are within my circle, like face to face. And then I would put it on social media. So then again, I put it on social media and I said, look, guys, if anybody would like to donate, this is how much it's costing. If you want to do it, khalas, alhamdulillah. So we would do that. And we got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of food packs sent out. And then in 2022, I decided in that year, because now everything had settled with COVID, you could travel if you had like the jabs and, all that stuff. So then I decided, you know what, I want to go and do it by my hand. I want to do it by my own hand. Like, I feel more trusted in doing it, because I realized what was happening was when we were sending the money across to Pakistan, the people there, they were taking cuts out. And even some people, like our own relatives, they were taking cuts out of the money, and they were like taking things, they were just doing things that were not right. And I just felt like, no, that's not the way this is. This is not the reason why I set it up. The reason why I set this up was because I want to make sure that every single penny, pound goes to where it needs to go. So then anyway, 2022, I decided, you know what, I'm going to go myself. So me and my mom, my brother, I think my sister came at that time. I'm not 100% sure. But we as a small team, we would go, then my grandma would help us, and my grandma's quite well known in the village, so she would tell people that if you know of anyone that is struggling, let us know. With medical fees, with food, with house problems, like they need a new home building, anything, let us know. Then my grandma would relay that information back to us, and then I would, if I could, I would do it myself, or my family, or the people close to me. And if it wasn't possible, then I would reach out to people on social media. And I remember in 2022, I went myself and I hand delivered everything myself. It was the best time I ever felt. In my teaching, I feel sukoon. I'm like in my element. But when I would do this, it's a sense of happiness that I would never find anywhere else. And I would always say to people that would come to me and hand me money, I'd say to them, if you can go yourself and give the money yourself, right? And obviously, if you can't do that, then give it to people that you trust with wholeheartedly. So then, alhamdulillah, I just started like that, And now every single year, I am going to Pakistan, and we do it on a massive scale now, mashallah. I mean, it's not as big as what like the big charities are doing, but you know what? Even if I was to help like 5 people, and when they sit next to me and they kiss me and they hug me and the smiles that are on their faces, like honestly, it's the best feeling in this world. So alhamdulillah, charity work became, a big part of my life as well. And then alongside that, because I was traveling, around the world, I started to like go on these trips with different retreats. They started to invite me for workshops in like other countries. I really, really enjoyed it. And I started to my love for traveling increased quite a lot over the years, over these last, I'd say like maybe 5 years, like after COVID. So I was like, I love traveling so much, and there's so much beauty of the world to see. So I then started to take tours, our first tour being in Turkey. We took a group of 45 people to Turkey. Then we went to Morocco, we went to Fez, Casablanca, Meknes. We went to all these places, Marrakesh. Then we went to Palestine. We went to Umrah in Ramadan, Umrah in Rabiul Awal. We've done like quite a few fair share, like in the last 2 years, we've done a few tours, and obviously we've got quite a lot still lined up. So I started taking tours, and I started reaching out to like my girls. They would love traveling with me. So I'd say, right guys, if anybody wants to come along, this is how much it's costing for the flights, everything. You can check it all as well online. And if you want to come along, you're welcome to. So then I just introduced, that's when Rummi Talks was introduced. So if you go on Instagram, you will find Rummi Talks on there. And anytime I am doing a tour or I'm leading a tour, I will always post it on the Instagram page. Then I started to kind of venture out to like these different things. Teaching is something which was always there. I would never leave my teaching, because I've always made the intention that no matter what or where I am in the world, or how much I'm doing, or how my businesses take off, or whatever I'm doing, teaching, I will never ever leave it. I do take breaks from time to time, but I never leave it. So now at this current given moment, I'm actually off. This is why the podcast is, mashallah, going so smoothly at the moment, because I have no classes. My years have completed, like they've finished, their summer has started, and the new year will be starting in September of 2025. So this is why I have like a good 8 weeks now where I'm just free, So inshallah, if there is anyone that would like to register for the Alima course, you can. It's online and it's in person, so you can register via the website. It's www.therahmanacademy.co.uk, and the registrations will be opening mid-July. So we're actually in the beginning days of I think today's the 2nd of July. So inshallah, in the next week or 2 weeks, the registrations will be opening. So if there is anyone that is watching that is thinking, you know what, I've always wanted to do an Islamic studies course, Bismillah, you're welcome to join our family, inshallah, and you can register via the website. So yeah, alhamdulillah, that's kind of it, guys. So now you can find me on TikTok, you can find me on Instagram. So TikTok is Rummi Talks, Instagram is at Rummana23, Snapchat is at Rummana23. Obviously, YouTube is Rummi Talks podcast. Obviously, I am on Facebook, but I don't think like this generation really use Facebook. But you can find me on there, Rummana Shaheen, as well. Yeah, alhamdulillah, I think we're done. You know, I think Jazakallah khair for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, make sure to leave some comments down below of any advice, any feedback, anything. You know, all comments are appreciated. I respond back to every single one, so I read every single comment. So if you have anything that you would like to say to me, or if you would like to encourage me in, or if you would like me any advice you'd like to give, you can leave it down below, inshallah, and I will have a look at it and I will respond. And yeah, thank you guys for being here, and inshallah I will see you guys next week for our next week's episode, which is very interesting. Take care.